कुमार स्वामी नायक है गोंगो लुगु लटोका रेडियो फीजी 2 में पुराना गाना लगे हमें बहुत अच्छा लगे
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन.
Good evening, Fiji. In this bulletin, a senior woman charged for alleged fraud. NGO finds worrying cases of child exploitation. And Health Ministry notes improvements.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jackie Spate.
A 38-year-old woman alleged to have defrauded a company of over $89,000 appeared in the Nasinu Magistrates Court today. Angela Devi is charged with one count of obtaining financial advantage by deception and has been further remanded. It's alleged that between the 2nd and the 4th of October, Devi obtained vehicle parts belonging to Hybrid Auto Centre by deception. Devi allegedly presented a fake cheque to the company amounting to $89,259 and took assorted parts, some of which were recovered by the Southern Division Task Force from a vacant house in Nandi. A second person brought in for alleged involvement was questioned and released. Devi is now represented by Legal Aid and will file a bail application tomorrow. With child sexual abuse cases on the rise, Save the Children Fiji has revealed that in some instances, minors themselves are engaging in exploitation. The organisation, together with international agency End Child Prostitution and Trafficking, conducted a survey on trafficking of children and child prostitution. It's found girls as young as 12 years old engaged in prostitution.
The NGO claims the true picture of child trafficking and prostitution in Fiji remains hidden.
It's quite an organized network. We have taxi drivers involved, we have people from the community involved. So we do know that it's happening. There's a market for it as well, particularly in the tourist areas. So there's all sorts of vulnerability that children are facing at the moment.
What we are seeing at the clinic, the sexual assault, particularly on the underage, 18 and below, the numbers have increased.
Save the Children Fiji Chief Executive Sharana Ali says they are alarmed by the findings, especially since these young Fijians are choosing to engage in such behavior.
And this is because of various issues. There's poverty at home, they're neglected by the parents. They're also facing, their school dropouts, so they don't have much to do, and they're looking for easy ways of getting an income. There are also issues where they want to have access to, things, for example, recharge cards, internet, etc., and they do go and engage in sexual activities to obtain money to be able to buy those things.
While not disclosing figures, Ali confirms such cases were referred to them and have been handed to the Child Services Unit. Since 2013, 3 people have been handed lengthy sentences for domestic trafficking, sexual servitude and pornographic activities involving children. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
Consultations will begin soon on a national action plan to address domestic violence. It's long been known that Fiji is one of the worst track records for domestic and gender-based violence. Apanisa Wangarandovu reports 2 out of 3 women have suffered some form of violence.
Women's Minister Meriseni Vuniwanga is optimistic a national action plan will make a measurable difference in prevent domestic violence.
Most of the programs that currently exist, it's to do more with the secondary element of it, where what can you do after the violence has happened. So with the national action plan that we are embarking upon, it's an attempt to stop violence before it starts.
The minister is hoping all cross-sections of society will pitch in to formulate the national action plan, saying domestic violence has reached worrying heights.
As you see, just for last year alone, 10 Fijian women died from violence committed by their intimate partners. And we see in the COVID context, this has taken a new turn. And
Fijians say while the law is becoming more robust in safeguarding women, more needs to be done.
I'm sure a lot is being done, but more efforts are still needed because a lot of women are still facing violence.
I support the move because we need to address violence before it is even committed. People need to know the consequences of their actions.
Even Prime Minister Vurengin Bainimarama has publicly said that Fiji's domestic violence scourge is a national shame. Apenisa Wangarandobu, FBC News.
The lawyer for Prime Minister Vurenge Bainimarama has today sought leave to proceed with committal proceeding against lawyer and former politician Aman Ravindra Singh. Singh in July this year was ordered to pay the Prime Minister and Attorney General Ayaz Said Qayyum more than $149,000 in damages for defamation. The court found that Singh posted an unsubstantiated article titled "Regime Dirty Politics" on his Facebook page. Singh made unsubstantiated allegations on social media about them at the May 2000 coup. Bainimarama's lawyer Devanesh Sharma today told the court there's been contempt of court order by the respondent since no money has been paid to date. Sharma has been given 14 days to file a notice of motion. Singh was not present in court today. The case will be called again on the 26th of this month. The Health Ministry has shown tremendous growth in the past 10 years, boosting its capacity, increasing staff and enhancing services. Minister Dr. Ifiremi Wangainambete says this was made possible by progressive budget increases. Corre Tandulala reports.
The Health Minister says they've made major upgrades to many facilities in the past decade and also increased manpower.
We as a Ministry of Health have changed very significantly in terms of the numbers of staff that we have. I keep on saying when I started there was about 200 doctors. Now there's nearly, by next year, nearly 1,000 doctors that we'll have. You know, we've had more than 3,000 nurses. And we have the ability to keep on employing them because of the budget appropriation that's been given.
Prime Minister Vurenge Bainimarama has also paid tribute to the efforts of health workers. COVID-19, he says, is an example of how medical professionals put others before their own safety.
The measles outbreak in 1875 and the 1918 influenza epidemic scarred into our national consciousness. We knew we could not let COVID-19 decimate our people. Fiji acted with urgency and in line with the science to protect our people. We shut our borders quickly. We tested fast, often, and early. We ran the most exhaustive contact tracing effort in the world, identifying every known contact of every confirmed case.
We've actually evolved as a Ministry of Health, how the measles epidemic and also COVID-19 has now shown the nation that we can be trusted because we are resourced effectively to be able to do the work that we do.
The Ministry of Health says they will continue to work with communities, including the most remote locations, to deliver necessary services. Corre Tandulala, FBC News.
Up ahead, postal revenue affected. And FNU takes up Pinktober initiative.
मैं तो दिल्ली में रहता हूँ और रेडियो फीजी रोज सुनता हूँ.
रेडियो फीजी 2 देश की धड़कन.
COVID-19 has affected the ability of Fiji Navy officers boarding vessels and carrying out surveillance operations. Acting Commander Marika Vosawale says the pandemic has impacted their work at sea, even though movement in maritime spaces is not fully restricted compared to air and land travel. Kelly Vavala reports.
The Fiji Navy continues to adjust its operations to the new normal.
We face an enormous challenge in securing our waters from these crimes, given the ratio of enormous land mass to the ocean, coupled with the limited resource we have at our disposal for the monitoring and surveillance of our waters.
Fiji is welcoming yachts under the Blue Lane Initiative, and the Navy services are required to screen all visiting vessels while maintaining its normal services.
The Fiji Navy relies heavily on the extraction of our analytic information to provide us with the refined data in the execution of our duties and responsibilities with regards to the security and safety of our people and resources within our jurisdiction and also in the region.
Meanwhile, 4 officers from the Fiji Navy were today recognized for their participation in a 2-week program facilitated by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. UN Resident Coordinator Sanaka Samarsina says Pacific Island countries have vast maritime zones and patrolling these ocean spaces can be intense.
Strengthening MDA capability enhances the capacities of littoral states to respond to safety and security imperatives at sea.
The 2 weeks online program not only serves as professional development and capacity building for the officers, it also aids the battle against maritime crime in Fiji and the Pacific. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
The Fiji National University School of Aviation is advocating for Pinktober, making sure students go through medical screening in the fight against cancer. It's an important month for the school as they will raise funds that'll go towards the Fiji Cancer Society. Felipe Naikaso has more.
Raising awareness on Pinktober is vital for these students as they know the importance of early detection of cancer.
Because just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had to say farewell to one of our staff, a lady, and she was married to our own dean at that time, Akisi. She had this cancer.
With the aviation school having more female students, it is only fitting that the school champions Pinktober.
Being an engineering school, we have at least an average roll of about 4 to 5 girls per class. And so it's an ideal opportunity for us to create that awareness. So we have started that initiative today and hope that this initiative goes on.
Students also went through a screening last week as they continue to stress the importance of early checkup.
Last night, there was a $50 ticket dinner organized at our dining restaurant, and the $50 was broken up. $20 goes to went to the cancer program.
FNU is also holding a competition on the best decorated school with the Pinktober theme in order to raise funds. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
The change in consumer behavior due to COVID-19 continues to affect businesses such as the postal services. Post Fiji Chief Executive Aniruddha Bansod says with the borders still closed, Fijians are relying more on online services for purchasing and mailing. He adds current technological innovation during this time has greatly affected their revenue, but they remain positive in diversifying their services.
As any business, Post Fiji has gone through and still going through tough time during this pandemic. When the flights stop, borders close, and that's where eventually our mail stop closed as well. Post Fiji business has become a bit difficult onto that. This has affected postal services severely, where our revenue has little bit dropped down onto that.
Bogus real estate agents are taking advantage of desperations caused by COVID-19 to prey on vulnerable Fijians, including students. 50 complaints have been registered by the Consumer Council of Fiji, valued at over $205,000. These are against unlicensed agents since January this year. Chief Executive Seema Shandil says students who rent have also lost a lot of money.
Have not been spared as well. There have been some bogus real estate agents who are taking students, in the pretense that they will be leased out a particular flat, and they have been also, made to pay not only the bond, it is bond plus the rent, and then they disappear. In many instances, the council have been able to assist these students.
Turning to world news, social media app Twitter has flagged a tweet by US President Donald Trump claiming he is now immune to COVID-19. Twitter says the post violates rules about spreading misleading and potentially harmful information. And Whitney joins us now with the latest in business.
Thanks, Jackie. Coming up in business tonight, JAXA Fiji enters voluntary compliance. And in growing Fiji, new supermarket opens in Nanranga. Stay with us.
Pula natang ko aprosa ng karse, go erkraki, do televisión na barong na Radio Fiji 1, nandomo ibit.
Radio Fiji 1, nandomo ibit.
The Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission has signed a voluntary compliance framework agreement with JAXA Fiji to comply with the FCCC Act 2010. FCCC Chief Executive Joel Abraham says they prefer to take a collaborative approach in protecting the rights of consumers. The framework is a set of guidelines that assist businesses comply with the FCCC Act and ensure they operate in a fair manner. The VFC was introduced following the collection of $400,000 in fines by FCCC, with a mere 55% compliance level in the past. Sanifa joins us next with the latest from the money market.
Let's review the South Pacific Stock Exchange market statistics for last week. 33 transactions with an approximate volume of 25,900 shares and a value of $46,500 were recorded for 10 listed securities. 9 listed stocks recorded share price changes, with 2 recording increases and 7 on the descent. The overall market capitalization for last week recorded a decrease of 2.64% and concluded at $3.35 billion. Meanwhile, the US dollar inched up this afternoon as riskier currencies dipped after negotiation on a US stimulus package ran into resistance. The Aussie dollar posted a strong gain against the US dollar for a second straight week. Elsewhere, the Chinese yuan dropped after the People's Bank of China said it will lower the reserve requirement ratio for financial institutions when conducting some foreign exchange forward trading. That's a wrap from our local stock market and from HFC Bank, Vinaka.
Here today's local exchange rates as set early this morning. The Fiji dollar was pegged higher against the US greenback, the PNG kina, the euro and the Japanese yen, but lost ground versus the Chinese yuan as well as the Aussie and Kiwi dollars. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Oil prices continued to hold around the preferred price of $40 per barrel. Gold rose to $1,931 per ounce, and silver closed up at $25.36 per ounce. The newly opened mega supermarket in Nadranga has been welcomed by thousands of Fijians in neighboring communities. Managing Director Irish Khan says the $350,000 supermarket also provides employment to 15 Fijians during these tough times. Speaking to FBC News, Khan says the high demand from locals resulted in the opening of a blue gas service station before he decided to open the mega supermarket. Khan says his business has been driven by local demand. Officiating the opening of the supermarket, Minister for Commerce and Trade Fairs Koe stresses the need for more local investment and expanding businesses. That's it from Business Tonight. We now join Koroi with the latest in sports.
Thanks, Whitney. Good evening. Ahead in sports. And Lambasa dedicates win to veteran Wanga. This and more coming up.
Bula FM number 2 NSR.
Bula FM number 2 NSR.
The Flying Fijian squad for the Autumn Nations Cup has been announced. A notable inclusion is England-based Nemani Nandola, who announced his retirement from international rugby with Fiji in January last year.
Played with Fiji, so he was delighted to be considered. Obviously, we've got a young squad where we're looking at 2023, the big picture, but obviously we need those experienced guys that have played at that level to lead these guys.
8 new faces, including Neta Siriloa Chris Minimbi, former Natambua High School captain Kitione Kamikamida, Tailevu halfback Simeone Kuruboli and Neta Siri fly half Tuinraki Samusamuvondre have also been named in the squad.
I think we've got a good balance in the squad to do that. Obviously, these young kids coming through, to be able to follow those guys that are going to lead from the front is very important.
From that list, you probably noticed there are about 9 players, and so that's just good news in some aspects for us to reward these players. So I think it's a great encouragement for future growth.
In another major announcement today, the Fiji Rugby Union confirmed Senirusi Servakula as the successful candidate for the Fijiana 15's coaching job. Servakula is expected to take up the coaching role, and the FRU says they are awaiting confirmation from the former Fijian Drua coach after offering him the position. If Servakula accepts the offer, then he will take the Fijiana 15's to next year's Rugby World Cup.
I am happy to confirm that we've offered the position of
head coach for the Fijian X team, to Senor Serubakula. We will await his response to the offer that we've offered him this morning.
The Triple S Builders Lambasa side has dedicated its court's IDC win to veteran Taniela Wanga. The 37-year-old was one of the standout players for the Northerners. As Aquila Dhama reports, Lambasa turned around from their opening day loss to be the last team standing yesterday.
The man Lambasa players called Daddy ended his last ever IDC with a 2-1 win over Lautoka in the final.
It is his last IDC, his last for Lambasa. This win is dedicated to Taniela Wanga.
Despite the slow start in the tournament, head coach Ronnie Lal knew all along what these players were capable of.
We knew that this team is capable of doing good. So first their performance was bad, and when we went back to the camp, and I think so we regrouped well. The senior players stood up, they took responsibilities, and from there now we have the work that has been done is shown today.
Another standout player, Ratwanare, who scored the winner yesterday, says they won when and where it mattered most.
We told the boys that we have to pull up our socks, and we have to come back for the other game left for us, so that we can qualify for the final. And I think this is the one that we were training and we was looking for.
According to Blue skipper Zibra Sahib, lapse of concentration let them down in the final.
And to the boys, they played well, and I think we were just a bit, we just lost focus when we went up to Lambasa.
Lambasa fans will likely celebrate the historical back-to-back IDC wins this whole week, and the Mbambasing Lions are expected to roar louder in their backyard during the Fiji Fest next month. Aquila Dhama, FBC Sports.
With only 3 rounds remaining in the Skipper Cup competition, Ramsamy Suva is anticipating tough battles as they continue to lead the points table. Facing rivals Naita Siri in round 12 this week, young flanker Taniela Sandrungu says they expect competition to be more intense compared to when it started. The 20-year-old says they will go down to the wire to defend the Skipper Cup.
We're expecting some tough opponent from the Naita Siri against Naita Siri, because we are leading the points table, and yeah, we'll work very hard, train very hard.
Fijian flies Marika Korimbete and Filippo Ndaumunu scored the only tries for the Wallabies in the Bledisloe Cup 16-all draw with the All Blacks yesterday. The second test will be held at Eden Park in Auckland on Sunday. Unavailability of venues is the biggest challenge faced by the Suva Netball Association. The association has rounded up its weekly league games and is looking towards their business house and inter-association meets. President Georgina Lasanga says it will be a challenge to book venues for their upcoming meets, with the other sporting associations pushing for venues where their events can be held.
New venue has been our challenge. We've been so fortunate to have 8 rounds of good weather. We had 1 round, which is last week. We struggled for venue. It goes to show that sports, it's big here in Fiji, and every sport is wanting to grow and every sport is wanting to play. That the venues are limited, and you have to fight for your venue.
The Suva Volleyball Association plans to join and compete in Fiji volleyball sanctioned tournaments. This is part of their initiative to revamp the association, its member clubs, and keep their players and officials engaged in volleyball. Games Commissioner Ilyesa Raketekete says they have noted a slight increase in the number of clubs joining them, and the thing to do is get them to participate in major tournaments.
We are revamping it. We started last year. Last year we didn't join Fiji Volleyball, but this year we're going to join Fiji Volleyball and be part of their sanctioned tournaments.
In today's play of the day, Flying Fijians star Joshua Tuisova again showed wingers in World Rugby after splitting the PAO defense this morning to score a try for his Lyon side in French top 14. The match ended in a 29-all draw. That's it from sports tonight. Coming up in new media, Apple is about to launch its latest iPhone series. This and more after the break.
Bula FM number 2 NSR.
Bula FM number 2 NSR.
In new media, a new iPhone is likely to be launched in the next 24 hours. Apple has issued invites for guests to view the new flagship iPhone 12, and while details remain secret, industry gurus have some guesses. And Angie joins us now with the latest in weather.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather World. Hope the weekend weather was amazing for you. It was truly breathtaking to see Fiji Day celebrations happening under fine spells. It's been so windy with sunshine, so it's pretty cool, literally. October weather has brought in winds, so we can call it Windy October. Now checking the other centers out, in the west, it's fine, it's dry, and it's more humid than anywhere else. Eastwards from Peck Harbour to Suva, windy and humid as well, but the winds took away the mugginess. And up north, beautiful weather resting in the island. At sea, southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, moderate to rough seas. Now turning to the tides, low tide at 8:28 p.m. with high tide at 2:47 a.m. Sunrise will be at 5:38. For tomorrow, good news. The weather looks clear. The weather is actually too good for a weekday, don't you think? Tomorrow's temps, Ba and Lambasa will rise to 31 and 32 degrees. Sunscreens are a must. And looking further on to Wednesday, few sprinkles, but looking at this winds, it will not be around for long. Well, that's all the weather news from here. Jackie is with you next.
Thanks so much for that, Angie. In Fijian Pulse, we asked, did you find any benefits with the SUV on sale?
My opinion for the SUV on sale, it's the same price, no difference.
I have a response from my family, and the good news that I heard from them, they did respond from they liked the sale last week.
Not good like before because of the sickness.
It's not like before. This year we did not really feel the excitement.
Recapping the main stories for tonight, Nasina woman charged for alleged fraud, NGO finds worrying cases of child exploitation, and Health Ministry notes improvements. For these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. Our poll question, last week we had asked whether the week-long SUV on sale would help businesses affected by COVID-19. Almost 70% answered yes. And this week we're asking, do you think Fijians have shown resilience in the face of COVID-19? Visit our FBC website to answer. And on to our shot of the day, first one for the week. This sunset is all the more special because it marked the end of Fiji Day celebrations on Saturday. You can send your pictures to email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, via Facebook page FBC News and our Twitter page at FBC_news. That's your news for tonight from the team, and I stay safe. Bye for now.
Baik, jadi mereka tahu रेडियो फिजी बहुत रेडियो फिजी रोज सुनता हूँ।
रेडियो फिजी 2 देश की धड़कन।